In this presentation, we'll talk about how to convert a post or text file into an audio file. In prior presentations, what we did is we took a video file, we made it into a text file, the video file being in English. Then we now have that text file, which we converted into Spanish with the use of Word, Microsoft Word. And now we have a text file in Spanish, which we want to see if we can convert into an audio file in Spanish. So we're going to be taking a text file in Spanish, which isn't our original text file or our original video file, which was in English, and see if we can then take that and convert it to an audio file. Then we can take that audio file and do various uses with it, including adding it to something like a course or whoever we're using these resources for as another resources to possibly expand our audience. Now, also, if obviously this same process will work if you just simply had a text file in your original language, if you just wrote up the text file or whatever, and you want to then convert it to an audio file. This is going to be an option for that. Get ready for business, online business. Just to recap, in prior presentations, we created a video file. The video file is something that we can then upload to YouTube. That was an MP4. We then converted it to an MP3 file, something that we can then make a podcast with if that fits into our business model. We then took that same MP4 file, we created a text file with it with the use of software such as Otter, just convert it to a text file. We then made a PDF with that text file that we can then use as a resource in a course or something like that. We then took that Word file, we converted it into a Spanish file with the use of Word, the tools within Word to make it Spanish. We then created a PDF file in Spanish. Now what we want to do is take that text file that we now have in Word and see if we can then convert it back into an audio file, but now in another language, now in Spanish. So what we're going to be doing is having our text file here, and you could do this with obviously any language. So now in essence, I have a text file that just happens to be in Spanish now. But, whatever text file, you have. Now, some languages are easier to find the conversion software than others. But now we're just going to say, okay, can I find a conversion software to do this? Now, of course, you have a lot of options to be able to do this. And the highest quality to be able to do this is actually to hire someone to try to read this thing, even though it's been converted twice right now, and say, hey, do your best, try to make this into a quality audio, but that'll cost more, right? So we're going to look for software to convert this thing basically a third time now, because we converted it from an audio file, from a video file to a text file to a Spanish file, and now back to an audio file. So let's go ahead and try that. Now there's a lot of different, if you try to look up like converting text to audio, you'll find a lot of different software out there. Some of it's free, some of it's not. You will then, a lot of times you'll be able to enter your information into the software, but you won't be able to download. That's where they kind of catch you. They won't let you download the actual file, the MP3 file. What we want is an MP3 file, which is the actual video file, or not the video, the audio file we're trying to make. So go ahead and experiment with it. Another thing, just to note though, I'll show you what my choice is and what I think you might want to start with, but it doesn't have as many options as some others. Like there's software such as this that I think this was the highest one that I found, which I was just like, wow, I'm amazed by the amount of choices. And some of the language that you have is a little bit, they speak more nicely, without a computer text. They're getting really a lot better at that. But some software, and I'm not sure it's this one, but I did try a subscription out of software because they had a reasonable price, and I was like, they can convert to a whole different amount of languages, and they did so in a way that it sounded really pretty good for a computer reading off the file. But then what happened is I started to use the software, and they told me later that I couldn't they let me download the MP3 file, which is what I purchased it for. And then they told me that I couldn't use the MP3 file for commercial use unless I upgrade to another plan, which is of course much more expensive, which I felt was very sneaky. So be careful of that, because why would I buy the software if I'm not trying to possibly use it for commercial use? And what is commercial use, right? I'm going to put it in a course probably, which is going to be commercial use, or I'm going to be putting it on a blog, which I might have advertisement on and whatnot. So anyways, I felt that was sneaky. So just be careful of that. Two things that are going to happen. One, you're going to have software that won't let you download the MP3. Then if you purchase the software, just make sure that that they're allowing you to get what you want from it, which is to download the MP3 in whatever language it is, and to get the entire file and to be able to use it for commercial use. Okay, so this is going to be what I have here. It's from text.speech.com. So from text, F-R-O-M, text, T-E-X-T, to T-O speech, S-P-E-E-C-H.com. It's a free tool. It's great. It works great. So I just have copy and paste the text into here. I'm on speech to text up top. Then you're going to choose your language. So I have the language that it's going to be in. The text is in Spanish. Now, this is where your limitation is, of course, because all they have is U.S. English, British English, French, Spanish, German, Italian, Portuguese, and Russian. So if those fall into place, if those are one of the ones you want, this is a pretty good option. If not, then you'll have to take a look at some of the other options. Then we can either have a male or female voice to be reading it. Speed, we can set then the speed. I'm just going to keep the default, which is medium. And then all we do is copy the text file. So I'm going to go on over here and say, all right, here's my text file. And now I'm not going to copy the title. I'm just going to go right down to the text. I like to copy, when we created this file, if you're watching the previous files, we made timestamps. I like having the timestamps in there because the person will actually read the timestamps. And the reason I like that is that if they want to line up this audio file to the video file we made originally, which was in English, they can try to do that with the timestamps. And then they can also, if we wanted to convert our video file and try to lay an audio track on it that's in another language, then it's going to be difficult because the time won't line up. And I'll talk about that a little bit. I won't try to do it because it was more time consuming than it was worth it for my business. But you could do it, right? But you can do it with the timestamps. So you'll be able to then, the audio file will come out that we're making here will be too long or short to fit into your actual video file length. And then you'd have to make adjustments to it to fit it. So if you wanted to take your original video file, use this audio file to then overlay the audio file, you can do that, but you're going to have to adjust the time of the audio file. And again, you can use these timestamps to kind of do that. So I like to just copy that. And also note, you don't need to copy the first one at 0, and then I just copy the entire thing. Notice there's images in it. Doesn't seem to bother the conversion software. So I just take the whole thing. Doesn't seem to bother the conversion software. So I'm just going to copy that. So right click, copy, or Control C. Bring that on over to our file here, and then I'm just going to Control V, just paste it in there. You might want to paste text only. And then if I just review it, notice I got the timestamps in there. That's fine. I like that. Doesn't put the pictures in. It doesn't seem to mess anything up. That all that is in there. So everything looks good. So we've got the settings down here, Spanish, all right, medium, and then I'm just going to create the file. Now notice this thing can be a little bit glitchy from time to time. Notice it takes 3 minutes. This is a fairly decent sized file. If you have longer files, it can take a little bit of time, so give it some time. It can be a little bit glitchy, like if it just jumps to the file and it doesn't give you anything, then something got messed up, right? And I find that if I have redone it, if I just do it a few more times, it'll catch one of these times and it'll pick up. I haven't had that problem for a while, so I think they might be getting better. So it takes 3 minutes, but for me, it just cranks out the audio file so you can do other stuff while it's doing this. And a lot of this work that we're looking at right here, this conversion work, if you were doing this for an entire course, notice as this is doing stuff, I can do other things. I can be converting other texts and converting from a Spanish file to copying the PDF files. Just note all this stuff that we've kind of looked at. If you were going to do this for an entire course, you can take these files and convert them all to say audio files at the same time, and you'll specialize your tasks, making it a little bit faster, or hire someone to specialize the task. Then they can take all of these files and make them into the text files with Otter and specialize your tasks. All right, and then once you get good at this, as you're waiting for something, or you're hiring someone to wait for something like this processing time, they can be doing something else, like converting text files to Spanish or something like that. Do that all at one time. I'm just going to have all my Word documents here, going to convert them all to text files one at a time, or hire someone to do that. But if they just focus on that one task, repetitive, it'll be a bit faster to do. All right, so then here we have it. So there's our file. Now, depending on the type of browser you have, it can be a little kind of tricky to download this. I'm in Chrome right now, so if I'm in Google Chrome and I say click on it, it actually opens up the file and it starts to go through it, which is nice. But what I really want is to download the file. So you have these little 3 dots here. So I'm going to hit the 3 dots and download. If you're in some other kind of browser other than Chrome, it might have some other kind of format that you'll be using to do the actual download process. But this software does allow you to download it. So you'll have to figure out, I mean, if you're not using Chrome, you'll have to figure out whatever their little download process is and then be able to download this thing. And so then I'm going to take that file and I'm going to be putting that, I'm just going to drag and drop it, if I can get these 2 things side by side, into our folder over here. So there it is. So we're going to take then the file down here and I'm just going to drag it over. So I'm just going to drag it over here. Some of these tasks are, are a lot easier if you have 2 screens. So if you can get a computer with 2 monitors, a lot of these things are easier to do. Notice it doesn't name the file down here. So whenever you pull this over, you got to make sure that you name it. If you're hiring someone to do this and you get a bunch of files with a bunch of numbers in a language that you don't even know, you're not going to be able to rename them. You might want to number your files as well because it'll be easier to figure them out. So once you pull them over, you got to rename them. So I'm going to take the Spanish name up here. I'm going to right click on this tab, go to rename, and I'm just going to Control-C, copy that. And then I'm going to go to this tab. And then we're going to say rename, Control-V, or paste it. And so now we have the name. So at this point then, now we've got this file, the actual video file, which we converted to an audio file in English, and a Word document, converted that to Spanish, where we can have then a PDF file in English and Spanish. Now we've converted that to an MP3 file in Spanish. What can we do with that? Well, we can put that in a course as part of our resources in the course. We can also put into a podcast. So we could have someone helping us out to basically make a podcast that has the same content in another language. And again, you could try to take your original file here. You could try to take your actual video file. Here's your video file that has English in it. Use your editing software to then take the Spanish file and overwrite the audio component of it. Now, again, once you do this, it's not as easy as you would think, because this audio file is not going to be the same length as this video file, because the rate of speech that the audio file is will not line up here. So what you'll have to do then is take those timestamps to do that properly and stretch out the video file so it works. Now, if you have better auditing or video editing software like Camtasia, maybe that might be pretty easy to do, but it is more time consuming. But that is an option, and that's probably something that you might think about. You might say, now I can make another complete class by taking these audio files and converting the video files and just overlaying the audio, and then I can make a whole nother course. It's a little bit more difficult than you would think, but you can at least provide someone with the audio file in the course and then say, hey, look, I got timestamps in the audio file. You could run the video file, turn off the audio here, run this audio file, and then when the lining up gets off, just whenever the timestamp arrives, you can adjust the timestamp here. It's not perfect, but it's something. Again, we're measuring out the cost versus the rewards in terms of the more resources that we can make.